I had this appointment and it kind of sent me over the edge. And I'm like really upset about, and I ended up saying it actually had nothing to do with this appointment. And this is what I'm actually upset about. And just putting that out there and I guess not hoping it resonates with somebody, but showing that I don't always have positive days. And I think that if somebody, because I sometimes in my head think, oh, I want people to come to my page and see positivity and have it be an uplifting message about cancer. But that isn't the reality of cancer because you can't always be positive about cancer. I mean, who could be?
Welcome to the People of Pathology podcast. I'm Dennis Strank. On this podcast, we explore pathology one story at a time and connect with the people behind the diagnosis. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Meredith Herman, and together we interview Clara Cirks. Clara has stage 4 lung cancer, and she has taken to social media to share her story from her diagnosis to her treatment. But in doing this, she's also helping other people in their own journey with cancer. We'll talk about Clara's experience so far and some of the ways she has impacted others. This is a powerful interview, so let's get into it with Clara Cirks. So first of all, Meredith Herman, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for doing this with me. And Clara Cirks, welcome to you. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and telling us your story. So the thing I want to start with, because Meredith, you introduced me to Clara, and I want to get the story of how the two of you met. So can we start with that story?
Sure. So this all started on TikTok, and I was scrolling through and I came across some of Clara's videos, and I really resonated with her because we're like the same age and we're both Midwesterners. And so I started watching her videos. I was like, oh my God, like I like would cry, and I was like so touched. And I was like, I feel like I need to talk to Clara. I feel like I need to connect with her. She was so authentic and still is authentic and just really upfront, honest about her experience. And from the pathologist side, it's really helpful because we see the slides, we diagnose the cancer, and we never really hear the patient's story. So I was really looking to continue to talk about the patient experience and bring that into the fold of pathology, which I think is really helpful to have that perspective. So I've learned a lot from Clara and all of her videos, understanding like what it's like to go get a port and chemo and the side effects and hospitalizations. And I just have felt like from a distance, even through TikTok, I'm like, wow, I can really feel her story and really like, I don't know, you feel like you're following her journey all the way through and you're still a part of it, even if you don't physically have ever met. So I don't know, that's kind of how I came about. And then so I started talking to Clara, and then I was thinking about people at Pathology, and Dennis, you've had quite a few patients on here talking about their experience. Yeah. So I thought, why not invite Clara? Like, she has such a unique take on it, especially going to TikTok and sharing her journey.
Clara, tell me your side of it. I guess Meredith reaches out to you, and what do you like? Who is this person? Why do you?
Actually, you'd be surprised. I get a lot of DMs from people just over the internet saying like, oh, wow, like your story really resonated with me, or my mom has cancer and this has given me an interesting perspective on how to better be a caregiver for her, and or just general education that people like didn't know. And I think that's kind of why I started it, is because like my friends would ask me a lot of questions and I kind of got tired of repeating myself. Mm-hmm. So that's why I started it. And so I could just send them to TikTok and be like, here, watch this. But yeah, lots of people reach out. So I didn't find it to be weird. I actually still appreciate when people reach out and say kind things. It really means a lot to me and makes me feel like, okay, this is why I'm doing this. And yeah, I really appreciated it.
Okay, that's good. I like that. One of the things I really wanted to get into with you is, it's a series that you do called Questions with Clara.
Yeah. It's called Cancer Questions with Clara, and it's not limited to just my cancer. It could be like Meredith said, a general question like about chemo or about radiation. It can be anything really. And a lot of times I'll ask people to comment questions that they want me to answer because I run out of ideas. And so that doing that crowdsourcing helps me come up with content too.
Mm-hmm. I know, like Meredith, you said that there's a lot of things I've learned just from listening to those. Like you said, we're on the pathology, the lab side of things. and to get the actual patient experience it's pretty moving at times to understand, you know, the specimens we see, the slides that we have, and how it actually affects a real person.
Yeah, and like I've said, I've like learned so much from
Hmm.
Clara and her sharing her own experience. And I think that a lot of physicians and medical students, future doctors, healthcare providers can learn a lot from Clara's experience because I think when you're in the day-to-day of healthcare, you kind of lose sight of that
Yes.
sometimes. And we need that human connection and understanding like this is what people go through, this is the reality. So it's helped open my eyes immensely. When I see a cancer slide, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be some really bad news for
Hmm.
somebody.
Mhm.
And of course, like it breaks my heart and we're doing the best job we can. And I wish I didn't have that bad news,
Right.
but I think that we'll all have a family member or a friend or someone we know have a cancer diagnosis. And I think it helps us become, like Clara said, a better care provider, a better friend, a better person to journey with them. So I've just been so in awe of Clara, just like really getting up there every day. It feels like every day I'm seeing you post something and just being so raw and
Yes.
honest and still just like living life to the fullest. And so I think we can learn a lot from that side and Clara's experience.
Clara, how do you, like Meredith said, every day, or almost every day, you're making a video, you're posting something. I got to imagine there's some days where you just don't feel like it.
Yeah, and there are days where it's hard for me to where I want to post, but it's hard for me to be positive.
Right.
Like, actually, it was like 2 days ago, I went to record myself, and I ended up talking about something completely different because I was, like, upset about an appointment that I had, and so I ended up, like, just being like, "You know what? I actually can't do this today because I had this appointment, and it's kinda sent me over the edge, and I'm, like, really upset about," and I ended up saying it actually had nothing to do with this appointment, and this is what I'm actually upset about, and just putting that out there and I guess not hoping it resonates with somebody, but showing that I don't always have positive days, and I think that if somebody, because I sometimes in my head think, "Oh, I want people to come to my page and see positivity and have it be an uplifting message about cancer," but that isn't the reality of cancer because you can't always be positive about cancer. I mean, who could be? And so, or about the side effects of cancer. That's what I was upset about, was the side effects of cancer affecting the way that I look and my weight. And so just being like real and raw and honest about that, I think that holds more value rather than me being superficial about it and putting a positive spin on it, which I can do, but I think that other cancer patients watching it will be like, "Oh, you know what? I also gained weight from cancer
Mm.
medications, and I'm glad I'm not alone on that, and I am also pissed off about it,
Right.
like, that's real and that's raw." So, yeah, I guess long-winded way of saying I definitely am not always positive, but I do try to have a mostly positive image to my
Mhm.
profiles.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
have noticed that. It's like the kind of mist and raw. Was that the kind of the idea from the beginning with this?
Yeah, I think so. I've always like so on Instagram, you can have like a private
Yeah.
story or on Snapchat too. And I've always done like, the whole like, storytelling kind of thing to my private stories, like to my friends. And they always say, "Oh, okay, you need to share that like publicly." I'm like, "Okay, well, I got to edit it a little bit to be able to share publicly." But yeah, I guess I've always been like this.
Okay. So you're sharing your story and it's helping other people. How much does it help you to share this to, I guess maybe saying it out loud or something like that? How much does that help you?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. I think it's very therapeutic for me, especially when I'm sharing about my updates. So not necessarily like the educational
Hmm.
pieces, but when I'm sharing what treatment I'm on now and how it's going, I do find those videos and when I'm recording myself very therapeutic, and it feels good to sometimes get stuff off my chest and then watch it back and think it's kind of like a full circle thing. Like watching the videos back and being like, "Okay, this is something I kind of need to, like, put over here in my brain, and I need to kinda process that part later," or work on this later. And so, yeah, it's like a whole thing for me. For me, it's kind of like journaling that
Okay.
is just like in a video format. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a vlog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Again.
basically.
And I really enjoy like going back through Clara's videos and like all the way from the beginning and seeing her processing it, like
Right.
the shock of the news and then like how life is changing and then like embracing life and how it is. And then I can just see you going through these growth periods. And it's like, I think people resonate with that because life isn't always linear and life isn't always like everything's great. I think people really enjoy the raw content. I think that's the better performing stuff when it's like honest and people can tell if it's fake or all like practice and rehearsed. I think the more authentic you are, of course, like that's why you're so popular. That's how you've gotten such a strong following because people relate with it and they want to help support and encourage you and be a part of your journey as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about then, because you mentioned this a little bit earlier. People, you get DMs, and reach out to you. What kind of things do they say?
Oh, good question. I would say the majority of the messages are just saying how much I appreciate the videos and how informative they are, or how they've helped them help others. But I do sometimes get like medical questions or questions about, oh, I had this scan and it showed this, and I'm scared to go through with this treatment. Like, what do you think I should do?
Oh,
And it's like, I can give you an opinion or I can tell you my experience with that specific chemo drug, but I can't tell you whether or not you should go through with it. Sometimes say like, this was my experience with carboplatin, which is a type of
mhm.
chemo. Like, I had a horrible experience with it, but that doesn't mean that you will. And I think you should do what you think is best for your body, is kind of how I'll word it.
Mhm.
And kind of help them that way. But yeah, and then sometimes I'll just get like, I guess most DMs are just nice, heartfelt messages. Some people want to connect from like a professional standpoint or just kind of more like a networking kind of way. Um, yeah,
It's interesting that people ask you medical questions because, the-
yeah,
like, it makes me feel like they don't have anywhere where else to go with that, which is,
Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
not sure what that says about our system.
It's like kind of crazy because people will randomly reach out to and they'll be like, oh, I have this pathology
Mm.
report and or they'll ask medical questions. And it's like it's different from a medical like as if you're like a doctor.
mhm,
You're like, I don't really want to, this isn't my patient and I'm not trained enough to advise, especially over the internet to a
Right.
stranger.
yeah,
So like on our side, I think it's great that you can talk them through things. Whereas on a physician side, you're ooh, like that could be liability and all like, I don't know this person. So it's nice that you're able to, as like different as it is, that you can help them process things and help them make their own decision. But like, if I get those messages, I say, "Sorry, I'm not your doctor. I can't really help you, but maybe I'll send them to Clara now."
Right.
Yeah.
I've noticed too, Clara, that in a lot of your videos, you say, this is just my experience. This is what happened to me, what I went through, and it might be different for other people. So you seem to be very careful with that, which I think is good.
yeah, because on the flip side of that, in the past, I've had to delete some stuff because people will DM me and say, well, actually, I think it had to do with like survival rates. And they were like, actually, if you put in your age and your level of health prior to diagnosis and blah, 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 then the survival rate changes. And then I would message back and be like, where are you getting this data from? Or what website?
Right.
And like, can you please send it to me? And so I kind of have to word things, this is what I'm finding, or from my research, this is what I see. And yeah, and specifically the experience part, because a lot of people will say, well, I didn't lose my hair. And it's like, I know not everyone
Mhm.
does. Like, so it's just kind of a blanketed statement. So people will stop commenting at me and saying, like, I said something wrong.
Oh, okay. The videos and sharing your story, like you said, it's been therapeutic for you. And I'm curious because it's obviously helping other people. Either they're going through something like this either them, a family member, a friend, someone they know, whatever. On those days when you don't really feel like you want to do another video, like you need to do it for them. Does it make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good question. I definitely would say, well, yeah, now that I have like a bigger following, I
Mhm.
kind of do feel a pressure to put out content. And so, but I do try to give myself grace. And I know I say in my intro that I post every day or I answer a question every
Yeah.
day, but that isn't true. And so I try to just tell myself it's okay if I don't post every single day. And I need a break just like everybody else does. And life happens and gets in the way, and I can't always make that happen.
Mhm.
So just trying not to hold myself to an impossible standard.
Sure, sure. I imagine that's got to be difficult at times.
Yeah, and what I've started doing actually, I don't know if anyone can tell, but I started batch recording content. So I'll
Oh.
just change my shirt and record another video. And then that way I have content for like 3 days, like the next 3 days, and I can just post. I don't have to think about, "Oh my gosh, I have to record today still," or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's a way I kinda have been getting away with it.
That is so smart. And I also love when you go to like Trader Joe's.
Oh,
I don't know why. Like I don't go there. We don't have one near me. And so
oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a Trader Joe's. So I always get this FOMO, but also like living vicariously. Like I love you're like, I got this and I got that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't have that, but I want that content is also very entertaining as
Okay.
well. So, no,
Oh,
so like the threshold, the standard, it's like whatever you want to post, people are gonna like it.
That's true.
So you're like at that level now.
Yeah.
okay, good.
I mean, did you ever think about that at the beginning? Like, I'm going to have to batch record, or I'm going to have to come up with different locations and things like that.
No, not at all. I started recording in my bathroom at my mom's, and then just because it had, like, good lighting, well, I thought at the time, I've tried to upgrade the lighting a little bit with, like, a ring light
Oh, yeah.
and a tripod, and then sometimes I play around with the lighting in this room, like the overhead light, but sometimes those lights can be a little too much.
Hmm.
And another thing, I actually, when I first started out making videos on TikTok, I would do them in front of a window because I thought that had the best lighting. But then I would always have to do them before dark. So that's kind of a funny story, but I never thought I'd have to actually like think about it. But I was working in marketing prior to getting cancer. So I did know a lot about content creation and the batch creation of videos
Mm.
to streamline the process to make things easier. Because I would do that at work just to make things easier, do all the videos on a Monday, and then you post through Friday and you're done for the week or whatever. So I think that kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage when it came to making videos on TikTok and like gaining a following, was having that background and kind of knowing tips and tricks for social media to have better like engagement rates and gain followers. Although it's very hard on TikTok because TikTok is very oversaturated with users
Oh,
and creators. Yeah, it's crazy.
okay. I don't actually use TikTok myself, but I mean, I see all your stuff on Instagram. So,
Oh, yeah.
Well, Dennis, now we got to get help set up a
oh my
TikTok for
God.
you.
I know. I've had to like limit like I don't really even use Twitter that much anymore. I had to really limit the social media stuff that I did regarding the podcast because it just became too much. I mean, so
Yeah.
so I can't even imagine what you're. I mean, because I'm once a week at most. I can't imagine doing that every day or most days.
Yeah. Well, yeah, most days, 3 to 4 every other day, 3 to 4 times a week. But it's funny you say that you just follow on Instagram because I don't always post all of my videos to Instagram.
Mm.
So I need to, you just kind of reminded me I need to start doing that so people who just follow on Instagram can see it.
Okay. I mean, I didn't want to make more work for you.
No, it's not more work at all. Not at all. I just sometimes leave out like the Trader Joe haul. I never post to
Oh,
Instagram because I don't. I'm always like, I don't think people watch these anyway.
No, we watched them. Don't worry.
this is the People of Pathology podcast with our guest, Clara Cirks. We'll be right back. When it comes to cancer staging, one of the most important parts is finding all of the lymph nodes. I should know. It's what I do every day. Yet this process has remained the same for over 100 years, manual, tedious, and time-consuming. That's a problem because every missed lymph node can mean inaccurate cancer staging. That's about to change. Enter InVision from Cision Vision, a first-of-its-kind device that's redefining the standard of care. Traditionally, we identify lymph nodes by sight and feel alone. InVision changes that using short-wave infrared technology to make lymph nodes stand out clearly from surrounding fat and in real time. In its first 104-patient study published in the Journal of Clinical Pathology, InVision helped increase lymph node counts in 86% of cases and even upstage 4% of patients from N0 to N1. I personally contributed to this study, and let me tell you, seeing the technology's impact firsthand was amazing. It's time to invest in grossing innovations that improve patient care. So, how is your lab approaching innovation in grossing? Book a demo at demo.cisionvision.com and start seeing lymph nodes like never before. Are you thinking about applying to a pathologist assistance program and feeling a little lost? That's why I created the Path to PathA, your PA school application blueprint. This is a step-by-step prep course that gives you everything you need for a strong application. From finding shadowing to writing a standout personal statement to prepping for interviews, this course was made to help you feel informed, confident, and ready. Visit www.thepath2patha.com to join the mailing list. You'll be the first to hear when the course launches. Your path starts here. And now for the rest of our conversation with Clara Cirks on the People of Pathology podcast. Throughout doing these videos and getting reactions and feedback from people, have there been any connections you've made? I mean, aside from the two of us, of course, have there been any connections that you've made that have been very meaningful for you?
Yeah. I would say a lot of organizations noticed me, especially after I was doing it for 5 or 6 months or
Okay.
so, or maybe less, a little less. I was reached out to by the patient story. So I did an interview with
Mhm.
them. And I also connected with the Cure Today
Yep.
and did an interview with them. And then I also did like a social media takeover on their social media accounts one day after that. And then another one that was super successful was I did a video about blood transfusions, or maybe I just mentioned blood transfusions. And my local blood bank reached out and they said, if you went to Methodist Hospital in Des Moines, Iowa, then you received blood from our blood bank. And I was like, yep,
Oh, wow.
that was me. And I know I did too, because the blood bank here, when you get a blood transfusion, they give you this little heart card. And if you scan it, you can anonymously thank your blood donor. It sends it to the person who donated that blood.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I did that on all of my blood transfusions and all my platelet transfusions. And so they reached out and they were like, hey, we're doing a campaign we're trying to get people in to donate plasma. We'd love to have you come in and do an interview so we can have that video content to share on our socials. I was like, I'd love to. And they said that I did a great job. And then the local news wanted to do a little segment on it as well. And so I also did a news interview and I was on the news. So that was really fun and a cool opportunity that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't done the videos on TikTok. So it's kind of crazy, like what can come out of it. And a couple other companies have sent me some free products. Actually, I have some right here. I need to do a TikTok video. It's like a skincare and shampoo for patients who have lost their hair from chemo. So it's like these companies see the videos, and obviously I actually lost my hair from brain radiation, but nonetheless lost my hair from cancer treatment. And so yeah, they sent out some free products for me to try and then make a video review about it. So those have been kind of some cool things that have come out of doing the videos. That when I started doing the videos, that wasn't my intention. I wasn't trying to seek out free products by any
Right.
means, but it's been a nice little thing on the side to have those connections and partnerships and products. Is kind of cool.
And those go a long way. Like, I am always just so impressed how you're always giving back. Like,
Yes.
I can tell you're someone that wants to keep giving and
Yeah.
helping other people. And it's I don't want to say it's rare, but it's kind of like a unique opportunity because not many patients are on socials or willing to go the extra mile to like do that news thing for getting plasma and platelets and blood donations. I haven't really seen much of that, but I think that's incredible because even on the blood bank side, we're always in demand.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would say like if a patient reached out and said, "Hey, I really appreciate the blood you gave," I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go donate like as soon as I can." So I feel like there's a lot of maybe inspiration for other blood banks who are facing the shortages that they could also identify people like Clara and continue recruiting people for donations to help other patients. So that was just like so cool that everyone's reached out to you. Like you have done so much amazing work already. Like this is just incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think it took time to get there. And I've also just kind of started getting in contact with people for actual advocacy at the legislative
Oh,
level.
wow.
I just connected with a woman here in Des Moines who works for the American Cancer Society. And so hopefully seeing what opportunities could be with them to advocate on behalf of cancer patients. So that's exciting. And I know not everyone can make it to like the DC level to change big policies, but what changes can I make here in Iowa? And so looking into that right now, which is cool. Yeah. So that's exciting.
That is so cool. That like it's so inspiring.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. It's like to talking to people like you, it's like I could be doing more. Why aren't I doing more than I'm doing now? And some of our pathology organizations are even focusing more on the patient aspect now. There's been several conferences in the last couple of years that are more, let's talk more about the patient, right? And then
Mhm.
advocacy for the patient care aspect, which we're always working towards anyway, but really thinking about that and having some of them on this podcast too, that's changed my viewpoint too, even just my day-to-day work. It's like this is an actual person that this specimen is from, and what I'm doing affects them. And it's interesting to hear that you're thinking outside of yourself too with that, like how you can help other people.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, because I know how much other people have helped me,
Ah,
especially now because I'm on a so I found out in December that I'm ALK positive. And so that was like new to me. And I don't know. I mean, I'd love to hear like your guys' opinion. My oncologist said he's never heard anyone evolve into that mutation. So it was really interesting for him to discover that. Being ALK positive was such a, I hate to say positive
mm,
thing because ALK positive has a targeted therapy associated with
yeah.
it. And so, no, I have it right here actually in front of me. And so I was able to start Lorbrena. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And I've been on it for about 4 weeks with minimal side effects, which is
Okay.
amazing. And I'm doing it in replace of chemo. And I was getting really sick on chemo. And I know that the only reason that this exists is because of all those people who volunteered to be on clinical trials. And so I kind of want to give back because I'm only alive because other people did it before me and probably not all of them survived. So just really grateful for the extra life that I get. So
Right.
yeah, trying my best to give back in any way that I can.
That's incredible, Clara. The ALK rearrangement,
Wow.
I think that's referring to a gene mutation.
Mhm.
And I'm sure your oncologist has told you all about it. And I'd actually be curious to know where you get your information about the pathology, that when you get your reports, because I feel like it's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
We are trying to make our reports more patient centered and more patient friendly. And I know there's the My Pathology
Yes.
Reports website.
Oh, okay.
So that's one that they're working through and like trying to break it down. Like, what does this mean? And they try to show some pictures and like explaining to it. But it's exciting that the clinical trials and research have led to more targeted therapies, whereas before we didn't know. And I know from the path side, we will do a bunch of stains. We'll have the tumor cells and we can see it. And then we can add on different stains to help further classify it. Like it's become so complex that we have to know, okay, that there's like non-small cell and then there's small cell. And then there's all these different staining patterns of each and all these different patterns of the histology. So it's really exciting, like at the end of it, after all the workup that we do, that it ends up with, okay, here's a treatment for it now. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting
You
too.
mentioned in your video when you were talking about the ALK mutation, you said that the biopsy tissue got sent off for tempest testing, which is something that I've heard of. That's a send out test for us, and probably most of the people that will be listening to this have heard of this. But it's interesting because it's just a send out test for us, but it changed your life. It changed your treatment, right? So it's really important. I want to stress that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. The genetic testing is like literally life-changing because I was getting so sick from chemo, like having 10-day hospital stays over and over again. I had them 3 times from chemos round 5, 6, and 7. And after that, I was like, I can't do this anymore. My body can't take this. And so I actually had chosen to stop chemo, but kind of in that same time frame, the Tempest testing came back and showed that I was ALK positive. And thank God there was a targeted therapy available, because otherwise I was gonna completely stop treatment, and who knows what would have happened. So genetic testing is so important.
That's incredible.
It really is. I've read some of the interviews that you've done, and in one of them, you said something about your relationship with the word survivorship. I wonder if you can tell me about it, because that was an interesting perspective.
Yeah, sure. I have a hard time with that word, but I actually just brought that up to one of my doctors a couple days ago. And he was like, well, he's like, I view the word survivor as being anything from when you're diagnosed to forever. And I was like, okay, like that makes me a little bit more comfortable with the word. But for me, I guess being stage 4 and knowing how widespread my cancer is, I'm always like a realist in the fact that I probably will always have cancer. And like, granted, I know someone who was stage 4 and now she has clear scans, and like, I consider that a miracle. But I'm just being realistic, and that probably won't happen to me. And so I have a hard time being like, oh, I'm a survivor, because I still have it. And it's hard because it's like, technically now I'm done with treatment. Now that I stopped chemo, I'm on Lorbrena. So it's, what do I call myself now? Or like, how do I identify? And so that survivor word just really bugs me for some reason. And just because, yeah, like I said, yes, I'm through with treatment, but I still have cancer. So, or I'm through with the traditional modes of treatment. And so, yeah, it's just a weird thing to have to explain to people, or it's a weird thing to categorize, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's like, where do I fall in that spectrum then? But I guess if everyone is, a survivor, then yeah, I'm a survivor. I'm still alive, so I guess I am a survivor. But yeah, I don't know. That word is hard. A lot of people have a hard time with the word journey, like, oh, this is my cancer journey. And for me, that doesn't bother me. Or a lot of people have a hard time with like the word fight, like I'm fighting cancer. That doesn't bother me. But yeah, survivor is a tough one for me.
And maybe I feel like you'll come up with your own term for it going through all of this. Like maybe we need a better way of describing this. I feel like it will hit you.
Yeah,
like,
it'll
you're gonna
come
come with
to
a better
me.
term. Yeah, you're like, I don't like that word. That seems kind of funny. Let's come up with something better. So, but I remember there was the TikTok you made about you and your dad and the boat.
Oh yeah, the like water lantern festival.
Yeah, water lantern. Like that was so powerful. I cried when I watched it, but I feel like it hits to that. Everyone should go and watch that TikTok video and maybe Clara can elaborate more on it, but the survivorship and those themes kind of really struck hard in that video as you were processing everything. And what does life look like now moving forward? And I don't know, maybe you can elaborate more on it for everyone listening in.
Yeah, sure. So my dad and I went to this water lantern festival, and you were supposed to write something on each side of the water lantern, and then we launched them into the river. And it was just, I didn't expect it to be like super emotional. A lot of people just put like, and it didn't necessarily have to do with like dying or honoring anybody with cancer. It was just like for anyone to come, and you can write anything on the lantern. And so I think I wrote something about, of course, I wrote something about cancer, but my dad wrote something about his parents and loved ones that he's lost, and just maybe some goals that he had for the upcoming year. And I think I did the same thing, or maybe kind of bucket list items. But when I was writing my side about cancer, I was crying, and I was writing how I don't want to die. Like, I'm not ready to die. And I'm scared. Like, I'm really scared to die, because it was right after I had gone into sepsis and was in the hospital, and I legit almost did die. And so developed this fear of dying, and it was like a big problem for me at the time, like a big mental block that I had, and something I really had to work through with therapy, because everything I did, I was so scared I was going to die. And so my dad just like, he saw me writing that and just reached over and grabbed my hand and was like, Clara, you're going to live for a very long time. And it was just kind of an emotional moment. And my dad's not an emotional guy. And so it was just very moving for me to see him have like a outward show of his emotions. And so it was, yeah, it meant a lot to me. But it brings me to that point of being so young and having cancer. It is something that I do have to think about, like mortality. And it is a very morbid thing, because my doctors had me fill out a living will too. And so it's like, that's something I never thought I'd have to do. And so it's just kind of interesting, the things that come along with being so young, having cancer. But yeah, hopefully that kind of explained it all.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing
Sure.
that. I just commend you for the strength you have and sharing that, and after processing it, especially on TikTok and watching you go through that journey. We're on Team Clara. Like, this is forever.
Yeah.
So thank you for opening up about that with
Yeah,
us.
sure. Of course.
How much would you say, I guess, how important is it, or was it, or maybe still is, that you lean on the people around you? Like you were just talking about your dad.
Yeah, good question. I think so. I was living in Colorado, and when I was diagnosed, my parents helped move me back to Iowa just so my parents could take care of me. And the first few months, I heavily relied on my mom. She was my primary caregiver. I also was using a walker at the time, so I had to have people help me. And I think learning to ask for help was very hard for me. I think it is for everyone.
Yes.
I think everyone wants to be independent, especially as an adult, full-grown adult. And so it was hard to go from like fully able to all of a sudden I'm disabled and I need help, like with
Yeah.
everything. And
'Cause you were active before that. You were a runner and things. Yeah.
yeah, I was a runner. And then to go from running half marathons and all sorts of different races to heavily relying on a walker was very difficult. And I also couldn't drive at the time
Oh,
either, because I was having like these fainting spells. And so, yeah, I was having these episodes of extreme lightheadedness. And so that's why I had the walker, is because it like had a little seat, and like once I felt that coming on, I could just turn around and sit down really quick. And so that was hard to have to rely on everyone around me to open doors or help me upstairs. And then all of a sudden overnight, I'm on a million different meds.
right.
And so like having to manage those and organize them and everything I had to rely on my mom at first, and now I take care of it on my own. But yeah, it was hard to rely on them, but I'm so grateful that they're close by and can help me with things. And I'm very lucky in that sense, and I don't take that for granted because I know a lot of people out there don't have somebody who can be their automatic caregiver. And so that made me think a lot about like the elderly and stuff and how there isn't always somebody close by, like a family member, to help and be a caregiver. And so, but I was very lucky to have family to lean on.
Oh, for sure. When you have to go through something very serious like that, it makes you really appreciate the people that you have around you, whether it's
It-
family or friends or whoever they
Yeah.
are. Yeah. Okay. Before we finish, I wanted to ask you about, this was a few months ago now, but you'd attended a gala. It was the Above and Beyond Cancer Gala. I
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to ask you about that because you posted some videos about that. And you talked about that quite a bit. What was that experience like? And I want to get into what it meant to you.
So it was really cool. It was like a formal event. So we got all dressed up and I had a plus one. So I took my mom, and my mom also had cancer for about 4.5 years ago. She had stage 3 colon
Mm.
cancer. So Above and Beyond Cancer is an organization here in Des Moines. It's a nonprofit and they provide free or low cost events and programming to cancer patients of all ages. And the only thing you have to have is cancer to qualify for the event. And so I took my mom, and it was like a cocktail hour, dinner, there was a keynote speaker, and then they had some like silent auction items as well. And then all the proceeds, I think, were either donated or funneled back into the organization to obviously pay for different programming for this year. But it was incredible to go, first of all, to be asked to go. I was asked to go.
Mhm.
And so that was like an honor that they had asked me to go. And second of all, Above and Beyond Cancer was the way that I met my like cancer friends, is what I call them.
Okay.
And so I had started going to Above and Beyond Cancer Friends because I wanted to meet other people who had cancer who were like my age. I was trying to make friends who understood what I was going through and like really got it. Because although my friends here from like high school and college, they're great, they don't 100% understand what I've been going through. And I just needed somebody who got it and like who understood like all of it. And
Right.
so, and I know that my mom went through cancer as well, but she's a lot older than me. And so there are different things that I think about or struggle with that somebody her age wouldn't, like dating with cancer or intimacy with cancer and things like
Okay.
that. And so I started going to these events, and a lot of these events are, I'll tell you, are during the day. And so a lot of people who have free time during the day are retired. And
Oh,
so a lot of people were older, and so I was, like, telling my mom, "I'm not making any friends, like, everyone's, like, 70 years old." And then I finally found out they had events specific for young adults, and so I started going to those, and I met this great group of women who are in their 30s, and a lot of them can relate. A lot of them are single, not married, don't have kids, also struggled with fertility with cancer and just the same things I was going through. And so it was incredible to go to that gala and have my cancer friends right there too. And I got to introduce them to my mom, and
nice.
like that was so cool. Like it was just such a cool event, and the keynote speaker was fantastic and shared her journey with cancer, and it resonated with a lot of people. But yeah, I Above and Beyond Cancer is very special to me, and I'll sing their praises till I die. They're fantastic organization. And I would highly recommend, if you live outside Des Moines, Iowa, and you have cancer, see if something like this exists in your city or nearby. And because they might have events that are close by to where you live. And so, and I know Gilda's club is a big one for,
Yes.
I think, breast cancer, I think, or for
It's
everyone.
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I had a friend who worked for Gilda's Club
Oh,
here in
yeah.
Detroit, and they were doing a breast cancer gala, and they had actually reached out for a painting for auction. So I had painted a breast cancer themed painting for them. So it's kind of cool that, they're a wonderful organization and they're always trying to do events for people and fundraising. And it's always like so fun, all the things they're doing to help patients and their families going through everything. So
Yeah.
this is all wonderful. I'm so glad you found them in your area too.
Yeah, it was started by this doctor named Dr. Deming, and I actually see Dr. Deming, and so to me he's like this like celebrity, like this local celebrity because he's very well connected in the cancer community. So yeah, they put on amazing events and programming for everyone. So I love it.
That's amazing.
So
I
cool.
will include as many links to organizations like those as I can find in the show notes of this episode.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
And I think that's really good advice for people to reach out to them in their local area.
Yeah.
So I wanted to end with this. So you're making these videos, you're showing up for other people, you're showing up for these organizations. So let's finish talking about where you are right now, both kind of mentally and I guess physically, if you want to talk about that. How are you doing right now?
A lot better, like, side effect wise, a lot
Okay.
better. Like I said, the targeted therapy has had minimal side effects for me
Amazing. Okay.
so far,
Right.
which is so
Right.
far. But yeah, that's been amazing because I had such a heck of a time with chemo. But I don't have scans until February, and everything is kind of riding on these scans in February so I can have surgery. Because surgery was pushed because I had to restart chemo back in
Hmm.
November. And so we pushed off surgery. I was supposed to have surgery on my pelvic tumors in December, and that got pushed. And so I can only have surgery if my scans are good. And so I'm like really hoping that this targeted therapy is working. However, they say that the targeted therapy is kind of a slow burn. It doesn't work necessarily right away. It takes a while. It takes a lot longer than chemo would show if it was working or not.
Okay.
So it may be, we may have to wait another 3 months of scans. So that would be March, April, May. So I want to know till May probably if the targeted therapy is actually working or not. So I'm now doing scans every 3 months.
Okay. I see. And then as far as like mentally or I guess psychologically, do you feel like you're dealing with this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think because all of last year I was in treatment and like processing my diagnosis. I didn't really process all of the medical trauma, I guess.
Okay.
And so now I'm kind of having a hard time with that, like thinking back on stuff and trying to process it. It has been difficult for me. And like I mentioned earlier, I thought that my body would bounce back by now with how I look and how I
Mm.
weigh. And so it's been a lot slower moving than I would like it to be. And I get pretty frustrated with that. And I I have a therapist appointment this week. What I'll say. I I was seeing a therapist when I was diagnosed. I saw her through a few sessions and I felt like I had a good handle on things, but then now I'm kind of processing everything again, and so I reached out to her again for help, which is totally I would advise anyone to do that. There's no I think that there's no end to healing. You're never, like, finished or done. Like, I think that you can always work on something within yourself, and so I'm glad that I reached out to her again so I can kinda process some of this other stuff.
Love it. I love it. I'm a big fan of therapy myself. It's helpful for probably anyone.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
always something. Okay. This conversation has been very moving, very inspiring for sure. So first of all, Dr. Meredith Herman, thank you for kind of co-hosting this one with me and for introducing me to Clara. I really appreciate that.
Of course, my
Yeah. And
pleasure.
Clara Cirks, love
Yeah.
everything you're saying. where obviously all of us are pulling for you. Appreciate you being here today and telling your story. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you both for your time.
If you're looking for another episode of the People of Pathology podcast to check out after this one, here's a clip from my interview with Dr. David Lee as he talks about interacting with patients at patient-centered pathology clinics.
When a patient comes to the cancer center for either for consultation or initial diagnosis, they might see quite a few different specialties and providers. They'll see the oncologist, they might see the radiologist, the surgeon, they're having surgery. They might even see the nutritionist or the psychiatrist, right? And I don't see a reason why pathologists can't be part of that visit, where the patient comes for multiple visits during that day. They'll come see us first before they see the oncologist, where we can go over their diagnosis. Is there any question they have about the pathology report? And then after they see us, they can go see the oncologist or the surgeon, so forth. So I think embedding us in the existing clinics or the existing patient appointments is more direct and more active way for us to see patients.
You can hear more from Dr. David Lee in episode 216. All right, so before we wrap up, I want to start by giving a sincere thank you to Dr. Meredith Herman for co-hosting today's episode, and honestly, for being the spark behind this entire conversation. This was her idea from the beginning, so thank you for bringing Clara's story here. And a huge thank you to Clara Cirks. You are truly inspiring. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to have this conversation and why it felt so important comes down to perspective. For those of us who work in pathology, we see specimens, we see slides, we see diagnoses and biomarkers and staging. It can be easy, and sometimes maybe it's necessary, for our work to live at a certain emotional distance. But behind every specimen, every slide, every case number, there's a real person. And that's what Clara brings into focus here today. Clara reminds us that pathology isn't just a diagnosis. It's deeply personal. Her story puts a face, a voice, and a lived experience behind the things we talk about clinically. And what stands out most to me isn't just what she's been through, it's what she's choosing to do with it. Clara would be completely justified in turning inward, in focusing solely on her own survival and grief. Instead, she's chosen to turn outward. She's educating, she's advocating, she's building community. She's answering questions that people are often afraid to ask, and making the invisible parts of cancer visible, with honesty, maybe a little humor, and definitely vulnerability. That choice matters. It helps other patients feel less alone. It helps those of us in pathology remember the humanity behind the work. Now, here's an example of the perspective that I'm talking about. Clara mentioned genetic testing. This is a send-out test for us. You take the tissue block, you send it out for testing. Simple. But look at the effect it has had on her. She was struggling with terrible side effects from chemo. But now, because of that simple send-out test, she has a different treatment option. It really changed her life. Every slide, every test, every stain, every specimen has the power to do that. Don't forget that. This episode is a reminder that storytelling has power, especially when it brings patients and medical professionals into the same conversation. So to Clara, thank you for trusting us with your story, for your openness, and for using your voice to help others. If you want to learn more about Clara, I'll have links in the show notes to her and to the organizations she talked about. Don't forget you can follow this show at People of Path on Instagram and Twitter, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you for continuing to share the show with others. Together, let's inspire the next generation of pathologists and laboratory professionals. This show is a member of Health Podcast Network. Thanks for listening. I'm Dennis Strank, and I'll talk to you next time on the People of Pathology podcast.